Visit No One Likes Us Clothing for all your Millwall clobber. www.noonelikesus.co.uk.
You're listening to Achtung Millwall, broadcasting from the beautiful South Bermondsey. Accept no substitute.
Hello dear listeners, welcome to part 2 of Achtung Millwall 509. I'm speaking to Mr. Michael Avery in the aftermath of last night's very poor home defeat to QPR. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Oh, good afternoon. Do you know what? I was going to come up with some little witty intro, but nah. Hello, everyone. Hope you've recovered from last night.
I was just saying off air, listeners, obviously tweet in the aftermath of the loss last night. And, you know, sometimes in the heat of the defeat, you can maybe, go further than you might do in a cold light of day with your opinion. But it's amazing how many replies I've had, maybe with only one exception, I think, have been relentlessly downbeat. It was just an utterly shambolic performance last night. I'm trying to find something positive, and I can only think of one thing. That's Billy Mitchell's performance, because apart from that, I can't think of much that really retrieves last night's show at all. How did you find it?
Do you know what? I'm going to have to get the thesaurus out and think of other words that are similar to abysmal, because I think I used them all last night. I don't think Gary Rowett plays boring football. Gary Rowett plays efficient football. Gary Rowett plays a game where it isn't pretty on the eye, but it gets results. Last night I don't think I've seen us play that bad before. I've seen us play bad. Don't get me wrong. I've seen us play awful before. And, you know, we've grinded out a result, or just about, you know, you've seen bad 0-0s, or you've seen games, the Fulham game last year, where they just completely played us off the park because they were that much better than us. But I don't think I've seen us play that bad in a long, long time. We were horrific. And it's very, very interesting. We'll touch on it shortly again when we get into other aspects of the show. But people who were listening to radios or seeing it on Sky, they were like, "Oh, from the stats, we looked all right." I mean,
I think shots on target. I mean, it wasn't my impression of the game, listeners, but I think shots on target came out about evens, and percentage-wise, we had more of the ball, which seemed to defy what I'd seen. But I mean, my own personal view is that statistics in football are neither here nor there. You can see what's unfolding in front of you. I mean, one chap replied to me last night about being negative or being negative to gain likes and retweets on Twitter. That is about the last thing on earth that interests me, listeners. I do not care about retweets or likes for negative opinions. I don't like to be negative, Michael, but you've got to come back to the manager, because he sets the tone, he picks the side, he sets the formation. And for one reason or another, and I don't know if we'll solve this conundrum on this show, but that group of players who are collectively quite good. John Berylson has invested in this current side. Are not playing for him. Why that is, I don't know. I don't hold in much with this formation talk, Michael. Do you? I mean, the merits of a wing-back system versus a 4-3-3 or any other combo of numbers. I think if you're not going to play, it won't matter what formation you take to the field. I think actually Gary Rowett said that in his post-match comments I've just been looking at on London News Online. They don't seem to want to play for the man at the moment.
Nick, I'm not being funny, and I swear I'm not saying this for comic value, but at one point it was a bit like, you know, when you get those confetti balloons and they burst and all the bits go everywhere and you're like, fucking hell, I've got all this to pick up. That's what it was like, because there was times in the first half and second half, I said to the chap next to me, I was looking and I'm like, I said about how well QPR, I thought QPR played well last night. I'm not going to lie about it, and we'll touch on QPR shortly. But they were very rigid, which again isn't maybe not the new way of football of the 4-2-3-1, 7-5, yeah. But they had their 4-3-3. You could see what they were doing. The forward was playing as a forward. The two wide players was playing as a wide player. When the ball went out wide, you didn't have players chasing it. The wide player knew what his job was. The other wide player knew what his job was. They knew what they were doing. They moved as a unit. They shut down as a unit. I could not see what we were doing last night. I could not see what formation we were playing. I could not see what midfielders were trying to break. Zian, Zian Fleming
yeah.
was trying to do something he was asked to do, but he obviously clearly didn't know what to do. I still can't pronounce the German guy's name, apologies, but he might as well not have even been in the game. But again, can you blame him for the formation? The midfield, Shackleton was hitting passes out for throw-ons when it was easier just to actually play it to another player's feet. Every single outlet, even when we was in the second half of the second game, the outlet seemed to be a 40-yard pass back to Jake Cooper to build up some kind of attack again, which no one knew where it was coming from. It was clueless. And I've never seen a Millwall side out there who, I said it in a voice note I sent over to you. I'm not sure if you're going to put it in the second half of the show or a part 3 or whatever it is. But I don't know what you could take from that game and develop into the next game. You know, like kind of, so-and-so played well. Maybe if we adapt this slightly for when we play Blackpool. What were we doing last night? Honest question. I could not see.
We were shapeless. We were aimless. I'll pick out the two, well, 1.5 positives. Can't quite make it to 2 positives. One was Billy Mitch. I thought he was one of his better performances. He put 100% in a very, very difficult situation. I thought he was if you can have a man in a match, I'm not sure that the accolade quite works on a performance like that. And I take my hat off to Zian Fleming for at least trying to do something with some ambition, some measure of creativity. The boy was alone, alone in a difficult place, and it didn't work. Some of his shots were wide of the mark and very, very high. So I'm not going to rate that as one of Zian's, for his YouTube reel. But apart from that, no, I'm with you. I don't know what to say about it. And even when I did the end of game video that I do sometimes, it's quite hard to find some words to describe it because it was so shapeless and clueless. If you'd have gone down Erith and Belvedere the other week and watched a game like that, a performance like that, I'd have said, well, that's about par because we're only in the South East Counties East League here, and that's kind of what you're going to get. But we're not. We're playing Championship football. It was the lack of effort. It's the lack of vim. You know, you can talk to the cows come home about tactics and formations, whether one suits some set of players over the other. I don't know. I'm not a football expert. I don't know there are such things as football experts. You're self-appointed, anyone that claims to be one. But if you're not going to try, and this is where it's going wrong, there seems to be something within that group, that dressing room, whatever way we're going to put it. These group of men do not want to play. I don't seem to want to play for Gary Rowett. So he's in an invidious position. I know it's easy to slate him, and anyone that's listened to part 1 of the show, you just said yourself, Michael. You've listened to it, and there's people slagging the man, and he's going to come back to him because he's the bottom line. He's where the buck stops. But if the group won't play for you, I don't know what you're going to do. Why should that be? Is my question. Why will this group of professionals, reasonably expensively assembled by Mill standards, why aren't they trying harder for him? Because they're not trying hard because we look so poor, so pale, so easily worked out. I mean, did you think we could unlock that QPR defence at any stage? We looked hopeless.
We're probably still out there now trying to score, Nick. And we were awful. And the thing is as well is that, again, Millwall were bad. There's absolutely no denying it whatsoever. But QPR, I thought they did a job well. But the difference is that even in the second half when they scored that second goal, which was utterly unforgivable the way that was defended, that second goal.
Awful defending. The first one was poor defending, Michael.
Yeah, but what the point I'm making is, Nick, no, I do agree with you, but they came down and they did their job. They didn't rest on their laurels. They're like, well, this mob don't want it, so we're going to punish them. You could quite if you was a QPR, you could quite easily sit there and go, sort of, Millwall don't want it. Let's have a little bit of a smash and grab, or maybe nick a point because it's a horrible place to go. With the occasion, obviously, of the minute silence before and all that came with it. But they absolutely done a job on us, and it's like it was a complete contrast. You had a team who started the season with Warburton, or Warburton was there. Now this Bill's come in, and he's got the team playing. But it's like what you just had about whether players want it, whether they want to play for their manager. QPR, they broke so quickly. They got that ball at the back, played the ball, broke quick. But then when they lost the ball, they were right back on us. back on our back line, putting pressure, winning the ball back and going again. So in a blink of an eye, their players are literally going box to box, backwards and forwards, moving as a unit. Our players were just so pedestrian in comparison. And maybe I'm bigging up how well QPR played. But I sat there and I was like, do you know what? I'd want us to, like, QPR get stick because they're a little bit boring, a little bit dull, a little bit West London. But I was thinking, I wouldn't mind Millwall playing like this season because this isn't too bad to watch, really.
I don't know. I mean, on our group chat, Michael was praising QPR's performance. I wouldn't go that far, Michael. I mean, I know what you're saying. I get where you're at. I mean, they looked okay. They passed the ball around as in the kind of the modern style. They broke well. They took the first goal, which I'm just reading here, was a Callum Willock. I wouldn't know Callum Willock from Adam, listeners. I don't follow the other squads particularly, but he cut in well. He was given space to shoot. Now apparently Gary Rowett's saying in his interview that these have been two names, Willock and Stefan Chair. His name is the other man. He's named in the QPR side. But these have been two names that they've been touting all week as men to watch out for. And the first goal was Murray Wallace. I mean, I love Murray Wallace to bits. He was our player of the season, but he's given him time and space. He's not closed him down. And at this level, at any level actually, even at here from Belvedere, you give players time and space to shoot, they're going to get it on target. And lo and behold, he was given time and space. So that's poor defending. The second goal, no. I mean, I wouldn't have expected to see that at the Essex Senior League. The Scaffolds, no disrespect to those leagues, there's some good players there, but that was absolutely, I don't even want to say schoolboy defending because they just switched off. That's not being interested in the outcome of the football match. That's not wanting to play for your manager, and that I find appalling, actually. Now,
one thing I will say is though with that, Nick, though, and I do agree with you 100%. And I'm not on any Rowett in brigade at the moment. I'm a little bit on the fence in truth, but the thing is that there is still, you don't want to play for the manager. Like some people don't like their bosses at work.
Do you like going to work particularly?
Oh, I love going to work. Yeah. No, in all seriousness though, Nick. Some people might not like their manager they play for. They might not like their manager they work for. But there's still an element you come to the job and you're professional. And for Millwall to literally be strolling around while QPR take a quick corner and bury it in the bottom corner. And then I saw Saville kick the floor and punch the air, and I felt like, well, if you would have fucking marked the geezer, this wouldn't have happened. So yes. Do you need Gary Rowett to tell you from the subs bench to mark someone at a corner? No, you don't.
If I'd have marked that bloke and tackled him, he wouldn't have scored the goal.
Yeah, But again, I'm not taking it away from the fact that Rowett he either needs to think of getting these players back on side and quick, or
I mean, I don't know if you read his interview. I don't know if you read it. There's an interview at some length in the on the London News Online, which incidentally is strangely now the second story down, listeners. I don't know about anyone else out there, but if you're a Millwall fan, this is the story, not the fact that Ryan Sandford saved the penalty for Weymouth, but if London News listening are online, I don't know why it's now come down to the second story. This is where it's at. But I mean, when you read the interview, going into the meat of it, I do wonder if Gary Rowett is starting to reach the end of his tether a little bit. His leash might be at full stretch, because I don't like to pick holes in post-match press conferences, Michael, because I think I wouldn't fancy doing it straight after a performance like that. You've got to come up with something, and everyone's looking to pull it to pieces. So unless listeners out there could do it better, then always keep a pinch of salt handy. But some of these comments do start to make you think that we're looking at the last days of the Rowett empire, because he's using words. The first goal was very disappointing. If I was disappointed with the first goal, he said, and when I watched the second goal back, I really don't know what we're doing. Phrases like that it's like body language. These are down phrases, yes, in the aftermath of a poor defeat, but these are down phrases that are saying to me the man is almost at the exit point, because I don't know what else he's going to come up with. We've seen no other signs particularly. He says at the end of the interview that he's going to have to find another side of himself to to bring to the party. Don't know what that means. I don't know
The
what
thing
other
is, as
side's
well,
got.
with Raul as well, Nick, you saying about his body language, and you're spot on, because there was a bit in the game where, obviously, people who listen to this show, I'll do the occasional refereeing, and it becomes a bit of a joke. I keep bringing it up in conversations and stuff.
You've never mentioned it, mate. No.
Never mention it. Yeah. But there was a bit in the game yesterday where he's really going at the fourth official for something, and he's pointing at something, and I actually said to a few people around me, I'm like, even with my sort of, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm like FIFA level referee or decent level referee, like obviously I do Sunday league, but regardless of whether you're Sunday league or you're the World Cup, the laws of the game are the laws of the game. But I was sat there going, even with my head on, I can't see what he's going on about. I can't see why he's getting so angry. I can't see why he looks so desperate for a decision, because I'm thinking he's appealing for, that is never a foul, or that is never an infringement. So he's screaming at the fourth official for something where, for obviously a free kick but it seemed more, like you said about body language, it just stunk of desperation.
I think he's getting to that point. I mean, I think there's probably a different podcast to be had, and maybe I'll you and me can do it, about the modern art form of the dark arts of the game, the shithousery, as some call it, it's taking forever to reform after a goal. I don't fancy doing that right now, but that's what QPR did on us last night. That may have been frustrating Gary Rowett, but that's what he would do in turn, were he 1 goal ahead at an away match where 3 valuable points are on the line. So you got to kind of play around that. They're going to try and manage the game, I think, is the expression. But I think you're right about the desperation, and that bothers me. I mean, the whole interview, when you read it, listeners, look on London News Online, South London Press. I'm just looking at another quote here. Whatever shape you play, you've got to defend well and you've got to attack well. And if you're not defending and not scoring goals, then you're hoping someone steps up with a bit of confidence. None of that is inspiring stuff, is it? It's the sound of a man that don't know what else to do, and that I don't say that with any pleasure, because he's got a job, and I don't like to see anyone anywhere lose their job. But the nature of football is it's a results business, and they're just not happening for us. I'm trying to think off air before we spoke, Mark. I'm trying to think of all the performances this season. It's only really Stoke, and I think part of that, the opening day win over Stoke, the only game really where we've looked like we've controlled the game. And I think 50% of that was down to Stoke's incompetence on that occasion. Apart from that, we've been clinging on for grim death in every game, and we've not really imposed ourselves on anyone. We've made some Hollywood comebacks, but you can't keep on depending on that. We had no fire in the belly last night for any kind of any style of comeback at all. And that, I think, comes down to the group mentality. I think there's the problem. I think it's that lack of drive that we're seeing across the board.
Do you know what? There was even a bit of me thinking yesterday when I left the den. Like my dad and I was walking back, and I just said to him, I said, "Have we got it wrong?" Like, not necessarily as a fan base. I'm talking about as a fan base and a club and a team, because before the season started, we was saying how great the signings were, how brilliant it was, how we're going to be top 6. I even remember personally saying that I looked at the fixture list on this show. So hindsight's a wonderful thing. I hold my hands up. I said in the first game, this fixture list don't frighten me. And I remember saying, Burnley away, I'm not looking out for that. And, there's all these things. Do you think that maybe the club's gone into this thinking, well, we might do well this year, and it's actually a more competitive and tougher, maybe not competitive because it's a competitive division every season, but it's probably a tougher ask than we thought it would be. We probably thought the Fulhams have gone. The better teams from the Premiership managed to stay up, and the weaker ones have gone down. It's yes, the Sunderlands have come up from League One, but so have the Wigans as well. So the more fancy names who are normally up near the top of the table won't be there. Have we taken it for granted that we thought it might be an easier division? Possibly. And now it's come back and smacked us right in the face.
I mean, I remember doing a pre-season profile for someone. What's Millwall's expectations, or what's the aim for the season? I think I think everyone was saying top 6 was a kind of like the ambitious target, and top 10 was the expectation, because that's been where Gary Rowett has got us to. to some extent, the football under Rowett is not particularly enjoyable. He doesn't play a style that particularly taps into the pulse of the Den. I mean, I was just thinking last night was obviously a strange occasion for anyone that wasn't there. There was kind of like easy listening type pre-match music, and that stopped. So there was a period of silence almost before the teams came out. There was no let them come. And then there was the minute silence followed by an absolutely scorching version of the national anthem by I think Jay Britton, I think was the young lady's name, sung it a cappella, which is no easy thing to do. I couldn't do it. So there was a slight I don't know, it was an odd feeling about the place, but I think the crowd, once the game got going, Michael, was there to be fired up. But part of the problem that I do track back to Rowett is that his style of football is not doesn't induce the Den to get involved in the game. You're kind of sitting back waiting for something to happen rather than feeling any inclination to get behind a surge. You know, there's no Millwallness about it, and I think there's another problem. Maybe that's what the players are sensing. I don't know. I feel like I'm making excuses for a group that are falling short for their manager, and I'm making excuses for a manager that's falling short in his ability to motivate them.
The thing that got me, you said about the motivating there, Nick, it was obviously on Sky, so there was a few more, or I think it was on Red Button, wasn't there? So there's a few more camera angles than we thought we used to. But I mean, I think it was when the second goal went in and he just stormed back over to the bench, sat down and got his pad out. And you're thinking, and this
what's he write on that pad? I want to know what he writes.
Dear Mr. Berylson, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for the role. However, but the thing with that, Nick, it's like, and this goes back to like the sort of, like you said about the scaffold leagues and all this kind of stuff. I'll tell you what, like, even I know Sunday leagues are a completely different kettle of fish, but when I used to play, when I've ref games with people who've played, if you've let in a goal like that, your manager don't go and sit down on a bench or just stand there. He gives you absolute pelters for letting him go like that. And the thing is, the three of them, these people are more qualified coaches than I'll ever be, than you'll ever be, than most of these listeners will ever be. But where was the drive? Where was it? They was all sat. It's like they was playing like noughts and crosses. They're all huddled around the pad. What are you doing?
There was a tweet from Stan. Big shout out to Stan LDN, who found one of Gary Rowett's coaching. I think it might have been a coaching brochure that he's written or an interview he's done, where what you think of, listeners, and you, Michael Avery, what you think of as shit football, it's not shit. We're going backwards because it's fire and ice. You have to supply the ice, and then you put the fire in at certain strategic points. It's fire and ice. It's not crap football. It's not boring, right? Don't you go around saying it's boring.
Tactical.
It's football played at a much deeper level. It's a bit beyond. It's a bit beyond us. It's a little bit higher level than what we can actually get our little heads around. Fire and Ice. It was. I think it was a coach's voice on online magazine or something. I don't know, some old nonsense really. But big shout out to Stan for finding that out. That actually we're watching Fire and Ice. I think the ice might have melted last night.
Thanks, Stan. That's completely and totally calmed the entire fan base. Stan's got the emergency break glass fire and ice training plan that will calm it all down.
I also want to give a shout out. I don't know the chap's name. He's in front of me, and he was on a rant last night. You'll hear a lot of his comment on the live spin that I did earlier on. A big shout out to him. I love him to bits. It was that kind. That was fire. I think. I don't know, there wasn't much ice around.
At least we can laugh about it, Nick.
Oh yeah, the laughter of the trenches. I think. Blackpool at home looks like a big game suddenly, Michael. I mean, John Berylson's invested a lot of money in this squad by Millwall standards. We've got big plans to build a training ground fit for a team that struts with the highest and out there in Brands Hatch. And at the moment, this squad under Gary Rowett's management look like they're more suited to the depths of the relegation fight, going by what we saw last night. So Blackpool at home feels like a big game because we've got an international break the week after. Then I think the next game after is a long trip up to Blackburn. So yeah, a win would settle a few nerves. A loss might feel a bit different. I don't know. Millwall don't really get rid of managers very lightly or easily, do they?
No, I think the irony is as well was it was only the other day that Gary Rowett said the football's going to get easy this season. Now, didn't he?
Fire and ice.
Well done,
Torval
Gary.
and steak and kidney, bacon and eggs. Oh, there we are.
I think the thing is as well is that I mean Blackpool. Do you know what? I don't know too much about them. You know, you see their results, but I'm like you. I don't follow individual players unless everyone says they're going to be the next so and so or whatever. But they're another one of those teams. They'll give you a bloody nose if you don't take them seriously. But every team in this division will. And the sooner we remind ourselves that, the better. Because
I agree.
you could quite easily lose a 2-3, 4-0 to a Blackpool and then go away and lose 4-1 at Ewood Park. They're not easy games, and I just don't know, Nick. I don't know what to do. Like, if someone said to me now, like, taking away the proverbial war chest of buying whoever you want, what if you're in Gary Rowett's shoes? What would you do, Nick, to change this? I mean, it's all well and good going, yeah, I'll do 4-4-2 or 4-5. But I mean, like tactically, like with wide players, wing players. Why are you dropping Tyler Bury when 2 weeks ago he was the best player on the pitch?
Yeah, we're playing. We're not playing our creative players possibly in the right positions. I think I'm not going to presume to start talking about tactics. I mean, the boys on the show will tell you about 4-2-3-1s and the 4-3-3s and all that. I genuinely believe that if you don't have any fire in the belly, it doesn't matter what formation you take to the field. I mean, I'm an old Millwall fan, listeners. I've been brought up in 4-4-2. It's kind of all I know, really. It's the way that the world for me functions. I think you can play 4-4-2 in different ways. What you need to do, what Gary Rowett needs to do, is find a formation with some players out there that visibly give a shit and bring the Den into play. It's his weapon of biggest weapon. Other teams will give their right arms for the fire of coming to a place like Zampa Road, and it's being put to waste by a style of play and a style of football that just deadens you. So last night, I mean, I think the best I could say at the end of the first half, Michael, was it was dull. I think that was probably the best I could say about it. And if you keep on supplying dull football, then people become dulled. And the Den is not that. It's a place of high energy and high excitement. So I think I'd probably have to think about a formation change. I'd probably have to think about going 4 at the back. I'd have to think about bringing in the best players I've got, which is Tyler Bury, and Zian Fleming is the other name. And I would go to something like a 4-4-2 and go old school, because he's tried everything else. Nothing else is working. Other than that, find where the nearest job centre is, because one in Lewisham, I think,
Yeah, but the one thing I will say as well, Harry says it a few times, and I do agree with his sentiment. It's very rare me and Harry agree on things when it comes to football. But one thing I will say, I do agree with Harry, but again, to twist it slightly, he said obviously. And he has said that we've got certain players who Gary Rowett's asking them to do things that they can't do. I think he used an example, Jake Cooper being a ball playing centre half.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not being funny. If he can't do it and you want to play that way, get rid of him. Get someone else who can. Because if you're asking players who can't do these things, and you've had for 2-3 years, Jake Cooper, he has his critics. He also has a lot of people say how great he is and how invaluable he is to the side. But like you just said there, Nick, if you've got players or creative players, or you want to change your formation, or you want to change this and that, and you've got a player who can't do it, and he might be your best player, but it's very much horses for courses. Jake Cooper, you can't play in a back four because of this reason. So you're going to have to sit out for 2 weeks, and we put Hutchinson back in and see what happens. Because
you're saying to Jake Cooper, I mean, no disrespect to who doesn't love Jake Cooper.
Exactly. That's just an example.
Because it's a good example. But that leads, and even Murray Wallace, to be honest. We all love a Murray Wallace Cruyff turn, but he can't do that. He's not. He's a very willing 100% player. So is Jake. But that's what leads to these long balls over the top into nowhere. How many of those did we see last night? The long kind of punt from the central defenders, because they're being asked to be the new Bobby Moore because he could pass the ball. These boys are who they are. You've got to start to be realistic. whether Gary Rowett can do that, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I'm a little bit like yourself. I'm a little bit lost for words after half an hour of rabbiting about it. But Saturday,
just like Millwall. Just like Millwall, we've been here for half an hour and got nowhere.
Got nowhere. Saturday feels like a big game. We'll see. If the squad listening, I don't know if they do listen to the show, it's time to bring your A game, boys, because if you're not going to do it, you will hear about it too. Gary Rowett will certainly take the lightning rod, but there are players out there that are just not performing at the moment for whatever reason. I don't know what that is, but yeah, there we are. I think we'll leave it there, Michael. You're on your lunch hour, and we're going to play the show out now with a selection of voicemail. I've got so many. I did 2 shows, listeners, so that's value for money, isn't it? Big thank you to Michael Avery. Thank you, Michael, for joining us today.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure, dear listener, to talk to you and have you probably moan down your podcast receiver at me talking crap.
And if you haven't had enough misery, then you've now got probably about half an hour's worth of voicemails that the chaps have sent me of more misery. So thank you for listening. Arrivederci Milwall. See you Saturday. Bye for now.
Achtung, Millwall.
Hi Nick, it's Angelo, mate. Just driving home from the game. Terrible, mate. Really, really bad. Do you know, I was actually sitting there today, and I was thinking to myself, this is the end of the season. This quality of football, this system. Would I want to renew my season ticket? And the answer would have to be no. I just didn't enjoy it. It's just fucking shit. And then I questioned myself. You know, I've never been vocal about Rowett out, Rowett in. I like Rowett. I like the way he talks. I want him to do well. I want Rowett to do well. But if I'm sitting there thinking, questioning myself whether I should renew my season ticket, watching this kind of football, it's got to be Rowett out, isn't it? It really has. You know, it was just dire, absolutely dire. And we've got good players, mate. We've got good players. It's just so frustrating. You know, it was an awful game. Awful performance. I think we had a good first 10 minutes. Then obviously we got that double chance where that geezer clears the ball off the line, and then Fleming hits the Bath. We score there. You know, with all that added extra time, we had probably about 15 minutes to get an equaliser. I would have liked to see what would have happened. But the only thing I must say about tonight, the one positive, that was Billy Mitchell's best game in a Millwall shirt, mate. That guy was outstanding tonight, in my opinion. The best I've ever seen Billy play. And he didn't deserve to be on a losing side, in my opinion. Like I said, outstanding. He was a 9 out of 10 in my eyes. I don't know if everyone else saw it like that, but I was so impressed with Billy tonight. And somehow, Nick, we need to get... You know, I was very vocal about Honeyman in a 10. I like Honeyman, just not in a 10. We need to get Honeyman, Billy Mitchell and Callum Styles in that midfield. What system? I don't know, mate. 4-3-3? I don't know. He's never going to play 4-3-3, is he? He's always going to have 5 at the back. And maybe this is why my patience is running out with the guy, you know. But I feel we need to get them 3 in the midfield. But yeah, just so disappointed, mate. Really gutted, but anyway. I hope that we can turn this around on Saturday against Blackpool if the game goes on. And I fear for Rowett if we don't get a result in that game. Anyway, come on, you Lions.
Hello, Nick. Hello, listeners. Ben Anthony here. It's really frustrating having to talk about another very, very poor performance tonight. You had to hope that after a decent performance in the last game and the frustration of last week being postponed and a London derby, there had to be something in all of that for the players to have a little bit of fight in them. But other than the first 10 minutes, I didn't see it. Something's got to be done because we're seeing time and time again the formation isn't working. We've got 7 defenders who can't seem to stop conceding goals. We've got a incredibly poor attacking lineup. We've got a striker for some inexplicable reason playing on the left wing. We've got an out of form Bradshaw or a Phobie, doesn't matter which one, being isolated up front, and therefore they don't get a chance and aren't scoring when they do get a chance. And you've got Fleming, who still shows a little bit of ambition and wants to get a goal, but he's the only one. It's so poor. It's really, really poor. And it's frustrating because, like I say, the first 10 minutes, I thought we looked quite good. But then QPR worked out what was going on, matched us, and we had nothing to answer to that. Absolutely nothing. There was no change in formation, even at 1-0, 2-0 down. No real change in tactics. There's nothing. And you've got, I don't know, I don't really know what to say. We go into another game. We've had a run of games now where we play really poorly for a few weeks, and then pressure builds, and then a result is pulled off at the last minute. And that only works for so long. So, again, we're in a position where we're saying, you know, this team are under pressure and the Den could turn on Saturday if they lose. I wouldn't be surprised if they pull off a result. But for me, I'd be looking at that result a little bit more cynically, even compared to how I looked at it against Cardiff, where, again, I thought we were kind of the better end of mediocre and they were pretty poor. The only good performance I've seen this season was against Stoke, and that feels like a very long time ago. I don't know what to say. I'm a bit frustrated, and I think something's got to be done. Something's got to change. Otherwise, you got to be talking about a change of manager. And you know, I might be joining those calls on Saturday. We'll wait and see. Come on, you Lions.
Oh, Nick, it's Matt Richards, just walking along the Surrey Canal roads after that pile of shit. I don't know. It's just don't like scoring at all, do we? We just I don't know, speechless really. The first half started all right. I thought, well, first 10 minutes anyway, zipping it around. But you know, we let QPR come at us. I thought it was just a matter of time before we were going to score really in the first half. But managed to get through that, and then when the first goal was a classy goal. I mean, Willock's a classy player. He did have some decent players going forward, which unfortunately clearly we don't. Second goal was just an absolute joke. I mean, how he got in the box like that, and I mean 2-0, and then we kind of huffed and puffed, you know, just hoofing it, hoping something's going to drop, hoping that we get lucky. That's what we seem to be doing at the moment. We just seem to be trying to get lucky. We're pushing the ball out wide. The wing backs aren't getting forward. That seems to be our strategy, but it's not working, is it? It's just not working at all. Front three just don't seem to know each other. You know, there's no link-up play. Fleming was looking a bit lost. Vogelsammer was just getting, I don't know, getting caught up. No space. Bradshaw just kept running, but we never threatened at all. Never threatened at all. We could keep playing until Saturday, and we're still not going to score. It's just something's got to change. It's just you know, the win against Cardiff probably papering over the cracks. We're kind of kidding ourselves, really. That was a decent performance, and it was a half decent performance against Cardiff. But we've got to beat teams like QPR at home. Otherwise, we're going to be facing relegation. I mean, if the Sunderland game wasn't called off, we probably would have lost that. And then where would we be? It's a big win. I mean, a big game on Saturday. Got to win that game. Got to win it. Fuck the performance. We've got to win that game, because otherwise, I think routes these days could well be numbered. Anyway, that's all for me. Depressing night at the Den. See you later, Nick. Come on, your lines.
Hi, Nick. John Rankin just ringing in after that performance at the Den. That is a kick in the bollocks. And make no mistake. What I have to say is, I think QPR, if you look at them defensively, we just couldn't open them up. They were very, very solid at the back. They were much better than us, I think, in winning the second ball in the midfield. And they took their chances, which we didn't. It was a very tough one to take that. I think if you look at the Millwall players, it wasn't the greatest of performances from anyone, I think. That was a very lacklustre performance, and a lot of the crowd walking out the den are very, very disappointed. I think we should have showed better. I think there should have been more aggression, more strength on the ball, and a lot more bite in the tackle. So I don't really know where we go from here. I don't think we've got a lot to offer if we lose to a team like QPR at the Den under the floodlights. I'm not a football expert, but I think this system that Rowett is wedded to, of the 3 defenders, the 2 wing-backs and the 2 midfielders, is what our problem is. I've said this for a long, long time. We are too light in the midfield, and we put ourselves behind the 8 ball by losing so much second ball. So, make of that what you will. I think with this squad of players, they need to be organised differently. I'm not a person to say row it out, but you can only judge by results. He's been bankrolled. He's got the players. They are just not performing. What is going wrong for me is the creativity in the midfield and also the lack of bite in the defence. Reading were getting QPR were getting round behind us. They were looking very dangerous. They missed a sitter in the first half, a header, which really should have gone in the back of the net. So, you can't overanalyse these things and put spin on it and try and polish a turd. We've got to do better. I'm convinced we've got the players. They're just not playing at the moment. So, over and out, Nick. Very disappointed with that performance. The highlight of the match really was the beautifully observed minute silence at the national anthem. And then I've got to say, it all went downhill from there. QPR looked very assured at the back. We didn't really have any clear-cut chances. In the second half, it was sweets off a baby for them. And, we weren't threatening. We weren't playing the ball to the right players. We weren't giving Tyler Bury enough of the ball. We weren't imposing ourselves on the in the midfield. And I've got to say, Vogel, Slammer and Fleming, well, they've got to step up to the plate now. It's time they performed. So disappointed of the Den. Over and out. Come on, you Lions.
Mike Hayden here after that 2-0 loss to QPR, the train home. I'm not fucking happy. I'm not fucking happy at all. It was a disgrace today. I mean, the thing is, what Rowett said, he said, we need to win our home games and then see if we can pick up points away. Did we look like winning that game? Did we look a team that could win that game? I've got to give credit to the recruitment team who has ever brought in those sides, because I think from that side, on paper, that is a very, very good team. And I think that is a team that, with the right management, could actually get into that top 6. With our current management, I'm not seeing enough. I'm not seeing enough from them at all. I'm looking at formations. I'm looking at a stick 5-3-2. Today we're struggling. 2 strikers go on, 2 strikers come off. How's that changing anything? Fuck all. Towards the end, Malone comes on. How's that going to do anything? Styles in the first 20 minutes was our best player by a mile. He faded. Get him in the fucking game. Shackleton, clearly a talented player. Why is he not moving inside a bit more? Billy Mitchell played quite well tonight, but we know he has his limitations, because Shackleton come in there, sit there. He could do a lot much better than what we've seen tonight. Excuse me, just arrived at Blackfriars. But any game this season, and this is what worries me, I don't think we have deserved to win a game, and that is the main problem. You know, even against Coventry when we're 2-0 down, we got lucky knockdowns, hitting this, hitting there, it goes in. Not one fucking game this season where I've looked at us and gone, we look like a team that are dominating the game and are going to win. Now, if this is a team that are going to finish top 6, that we are absolutely fucking miles away. And my concern at the moment, I mean, thank fuck we didn't play Sunderland on Saturday, because if we got beat there 2-3, I can guarantee the Den would have been dead as fuck tonight. And also, 8 minutes at a time, I stayed till the end. There was about 2 people left in the Den. Honestly, the fans are watching it and going, this is dire, honestly. And the concern is, we've given Gary Rowett a new contract, we've given him time, we've given him his players. He has to prove he's got his players now. I know it's early in the season, and I was prepared to give him time, but I'll tell you what, this time is running out very quickly, because I'm not seeing any signs of progress at all. Apart from the players that you saw, Fleming looks quite handy, Vogelsteiner, again, nice touches, but I'm not seeing how that fits into the overall model of attacking football. There's nothing. And we know from history, when a Millwall team can't defend, we get relegated. And that is my main concern at the moment. We stay firm at the back and then we attack from the front. We can't defend, we can't score goals. This is a major, major worry. He's got to sort it out straight away. And that's my thoughts on tonight's game. Arrivederci Milwall.
Well, just back from the Den, what can I say about what I've just witnessed? I think, first and foremost, I think to take the game in isolation, we were very, very poor. We didn't create enough. We didn't have any width. We, again, let a ball bounce, I remember, in the first half, in our own half. Creswell got took on and beaten 1-on-1 when he was out in the right channel position. And just, I mean, I dug him out, but I could dig so many players out. But that would be wrong of me, because we're asking players to do things they can't do. Jake Cooper is not a ball-playing centre-back. He never has been. He's a diag hitter. He's not the ball-playing centre-back. The midfield, Zion Fleming played as a striker last season, or an attacking midfielder. He doesn't play there for Millwall. Bradshaw is only good when you fire balls into him, the way we did in the only time we got any kind of width in the entire game to fire the ball into him in the first half, for him to shoot over the bar from a half chance, really. Now, if it was in isolation, you can accept it being one game, but as we take the season as a whole, played 9 games, 10 if you include the cup. So I'm going to include the cup for the basis that we've won 3 games. One of them was against Stoke, who were awful. One of them was against Coventry, who somehow managed to give us the game back when we were 2-0 down. The other one was the game against Cardiff, where the Den was in full pant over the moat with Morrison and Romeo. Then you go to 4 or 5 defeats. I've kind of confused myself. But anyway, you've got the 1 draw where we should have lost against Swansea. And then you've got defeats to Norwich, Sheffield United. You've got a defeat against Reading at home. You've got now a defeat against QPR. You've got a defeat against Cambridge in the Cup. Now, it's not really acceptable, is it? When you're supposed to be trying to go forward, trying to build the team towards the upper echelons of the Championship, 3 wins from 9 isn't good enough in the league. And, you know, if we lose on Saturday, I do mean this on Saturday, any other club after 10 league games with only 3 wins on the board, when a top 6 to 8 finish was aimed for, would be questioning whether or not it's time for the manager to go. The additional problem, or the additional thing, is that Gary Rowett has been in this position before. It's not like this is the first time. There's not particularly a great amount of credit in the bank, I don't think. I think the excuses that have been used before. It's not his team. He's not had enough transfer windows. He's got loads of injuries. There's not really that this time. It's just poor performance after poor performance after poor performance. The refusal to drop 5 at the back, the refusal to play with width, the refusal to, you're never going to replace Jeb Wallace, but we've not even attempted to get a winger in so we can play a similar system and change to go to that. Maybe it's not his preferred system, but the system that we are now playing is not working. His managerial style is to be based upon defensive solidity and be hard to break down and only concede maybe 1 goal if we're going to concede at all, ideally not, and nick something from a set piece or a breakaway or a counter attack. And that's the way Harry's got his success. And now we can't do that. So now it's exposing everything else of, no, we're actually not very good going forward. And we have no real pattern of play. We have no style of play. We have no shape. You start, and it's unraveling. Players look so out of character, so less than what they should be, and it's dragging their teammates down around them, and that leads to, if you don't address that as a squad, as a club, as a manager, that leads to relegation. So it's definitely time to be talking about it. Whether you pull the trigger, I think maybe it'll be early after tonight, but if you get beaten on Saturday, you've got an international break, 3 weeks off, and managers out of jobs. And surely, if Millwall are serious about keeping their championship status, you're going to have to start weighing up, after 10 games already, whether or not it would be more expensive to get relegated or more expensive to get rid of Gary Rowett. Because if you keep serving up performances that we've seen so far at home this season, people will stop going and we'll get closer to the relegation zone and possibly get relegated. So something's got to change, in my opinion. And if it doesn't change soon, then we'll be looking for a new manager, in my opinion, or should be looking for a new manager. I've never been his biggest fan. I'm not going to pretend to be his biggest fan. But a lot of you are starting to see that, what I feel like I've been seeing before, what I've felt like he's done. Realistically, the run during COVID, if we had been there, he would not still be at this club. So in my opinion, he's been on borrowed time. We've given him money to spend, and I think the players, I think the squad, I think there are good players within that team. We know them to be. They finished 11th last season and went into the last day of the season with a chance. Admittedly, we have lost Jeb Wallace, but we have replaced him with what were called adequate replacements. Well, they're either adequate or they're not. Or is it the manager not able to get the best out of his new team? And I think it's more that than them not being good enough. Stiles is rated one of the best 20 players in the division in the EFL under the age of 20, or was last season by the Not the Top 20 podcast. And yeah, I can understand why we signed. That's the kind of player we're signing now. We're trying to build for the future, and I don't think Gary Rowett's got much of a future if we keep doing what we're doing. Anyway, I hope I'm wrong. I hope we win 3-4, 5-0 on Saturday. But if we don't, and we get a defeat, it's going to be a very, very toxic atmosphere. And I think you all know where that ends. Anyway, come on, your lines.
Achtung, Millwall.